I'm wondering what your expectation is and if the government will shut down on October 1st. A lot of Republicans are already blaming Democrats for what's about to happen.
Well, I think it's important for the people around the nation to understand that what they already know, which is that the Democrats are in the minority. We lose every vote. And if the government is shut down, it can't shut down because of Democrats, because we're in the minority. I don't know how the minority can shut something down. The other thing that I think is important is the President of the United States has not and is suggesting that he will not meet with the Democrats. The people around the country did not elect us to go into our different corners and come out and fight most of the time we're in Washington. But when the president says he's not going to meet with us, what else can we do? And to be sure, our leaders are not wanting to meet with him unless we can get something guaranteed that the money will be spent as we approved it. Remember, last March we approved a spending bill, and the president did a recision, just took it away, which he is not supposed to be able to do legally, but he did, and he might do it again. So my constituents, I have 800,000 like everybody else, they want me to give them some assurance that the money that I vote on will be spent the way I voted.
Yeah. Well, I saw the Democratic version of the CR that got a vote in the Senate last week, Congressman. If you had assurances or a deal in place to extend Obamacare subsidies and a promise of no more rescissions, would you be on board?
Well, that would be moving in the right direction. You know, it would be hard for me to say yes or no, just simply because, you know, there are little words that you can insert into the language of those bills.
Sure, of course.
That might be interpreted as giving power to somebody else. I mean, we always have those kind of little things going, which is due to the fact that we have two parties in Washington, and tragically and painfully to me, they don't trust each other. And we certainly don't have trust now after the rescissions that took place. I had a huge amount of money coming into the state of Missouri, which would ultimately be spent in my congressional district to do solar panels on hundreds and hundreds of homes. And the president just by himself just woke up one morning and took the money. And that's not the way this government is supposed to work. This is not United States of America, where members of Congress are supposed to have a say. In fact, some might say that our only responsibility is done handled with the power of the purse. That's what we constitutionally been awarded. But during this last 8 or 9 months, that has not been the case.
So what happens to those solar projects, Congressman? Are they canceled?
Well, we had to cancel them here in my district because, and we'd gone all the way out getting things done, getting the community ready, and made announcements that this was going to happen, and the president just took the money, just took it. Wow. You know, the same thing happened with places like a women's shelter, where women are able to go if they are being battered or if they're having some other kinds of problems. The people from that shelter will be in my office sometime this week to tell me that they don't know if they're going to be able to keep the doors open because the president took that money as well. And if you look at it, at the nation, my case is not the only one, but it's certainly one of the ones that's been impacted primarily prior to this rescission, and then to the all of a sudden the complete redistricting of the state of Missouri. You know, I guess only because the president wants some seats that he believes he can win. And if I can tell you, you know, as inflation is rising, the job market is diving, and economic growth is slowing, and as you mentioned earlier, shutdown is a possibility. Why in the world would we want to take time to do redistricting in the middle of a decade where we almost never have redistricting because it's based on the census. And the census is 3-4 years out now. So any decision that is made on redistricting cannot possibly be scientifically done because we don't know where the movement of citizens have gone. We don't know anything except that the president said he wanted it redistricted because he needed a seat because his popularity as well as the popularity of his policies are down in the tank. And this is a red state, Missouri.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about this redistricting matter, Congressman. I'm glad you brought it up. It's what I wanted to ask you about, whether it's Texas, California, New York, Indiana, or yes, Missouri. Each seems to have a slightly a different wrinkle here. You were the first black mayor of Kansas City, and you know the importance of Truce Avenue. In our remaining couple of moments together, I'd like you to talk to me about the cultural and political impact of redrawing the congressional district that you now represent with Truce Avenue as a dividing line, which was I think we can say openly, a racial line of segregation in the city for some time. This idea is reopening wounds and reminding us that there are nuances when it comes to redistricting. How important is that for the city and your district?
Yes, Truce is a 10.5 miles running almost all the way to the end of the city going south, coming from north, which is where the airport is. I was born and raised in Texas, moved here after college, and I was told when I got here in the early 1970s that Truce was the line of demarcation, or the Mason-Dixon line, whichever you choose. Yeah. And African Americans had historically not been able to live to the west of Truce. And so a Truce became, an ugly street because it went into deep decline. Businesses had shuttered. And so when I was mayor, and before, for that matter, business leaders along with civil rights leaders worked tirelessly to try to erase what had been become an embarrassment. And we were slowly getting it done. The school district, for example, moved its headquarters on Truce, and there were businesses that opened up and a big child care center. And so this line runs all the way down Truce, and it is not good for our psychological and racially inclusive city. In fact, it is ugly and nasty reminder of days gone by, at least we thought they were gone by, until we looked at this map and saw that my boundary on one side just went all along Truce, and it causes people to wonder if is there a subliminal message here, and whether or not the state would reconsider this, but I don't think they will. I went down and testified, and I think some of the people were stunned to find this out. But I don't think they want to anger the White House. So right now it's standing, and there've been suits filed, and I think there's also an initiative petition underway.